An old man once buried his dog at the edge of a field. But that was not an ending. It was the beginning of the strangest, most beautiful spring the valley had ever seen. Tonight, I'll tell you a story from Japan. Far up in the hills where the road turned to grass, there stood a small house with a thatched roof. An old man lived there with his wife. They had been together so long that they moved like one person. Their hands were rough from work. Their hair was white like the first snow of the year. They had no children. But they were kind to everything that grew and everything that breathed. In spring, the old man worked his small field while his wife sang quietly in the doorway. The earth was soft under his hands. The air smelled of rain and wood smoke and new leaves. One morning, the old man heard a sound by the river. It was small, thin, almost nothing at all. He pushed the tall grass aside, and there it was. A white puppy, alone, wet, shivering. So small it fit inside his two hands. He carried it home inside his coat, close to his heart, and the shivering slowly stopped. His wife warmed soft rice in a bowl and held the puppy in her lap and spoke to it in a small voice, the way you speak to a baby. The puppy ate and fell asleep in the middle of eating. They named him Shiro. It means white, white like snow, white like the blossoms that come after it. Shiro grew. He ran ahead of the old man on the mountain path, then ran back, then ran ahead again, as if one walk could be three. He waited at the gate every evening, ears up, tail moving before anyone appeared. The house had been quiet for many years. Now it was not. As the seasons passed, Shiro grew tall and strong, and the old couple grew a little older, and none of them minded. At night he slept by the door, between his people and the dark. When storms came, he did not bark. He only moved a little closer to the door. Years went by like this, gently. One day in the field, Shiro stopped. His ears rose. He sniffed the ground, turned in a circle, and began to dig, fast, with both paws, until the dirt flew behind him. Then he barked, looking back at the old man. "Here, here! Dig here!" That is how it sounded. The old man laughed. What could be down there? Old roots? A sleeping frog? But Shiro would not move from the spot. He stood over it like a small white guard. So the old man fetched his hoe and began to dig where the white dog stood. The earth opened, dark and soft, and then something caught the light. The old man knelt. He brushed the soil away with his fingers, slowly, the way you uncover something you cannot quite believe. Gold. Old coins, heavy and warm from the ground, more than his two hands could hold. Coins from some forgotten time, sleeping under the field all these years. He sat down in the dirt and did not speak for a long time. Shiro pushed his nose into the old man's sleeve. That night, they gave Shiro the best of everything. He did not understand why, and somehow that made them love him even more. Next door lived another old man. He had a bigger house, a bigger field, and eyes that were always hungry. He watched everything over the fence, and everything he watched, he wanted. He had heard about the gold. In a village, gold does not stay secret for long. He came the very next day, smiling a smile that did not reach his eyes. "Lend me your dog," he said. "Just for one day." The kind old man had never learned how to say no. So Shiro went, pulled by a rope down the road. At the gate he looked back once. Then he was gone. The neighbor dragged Shiro across his field. "Dig," he said. "Dig! Where is my gold?" Shiro lowered his head. At last he scratched at one spot, slowly, as if he did not want to. The neighbor dug like a man possessed. Under the soil there were broken pots, old bones, bad-smelling mud, nothing more. The neighbor's face went dark, and his hands went tight around the handle of his hoe. That evening Shiro did not come home. The old man stood at the gate until the stars came out. The road stayed empty. The rice in Shiro's bowl went cold by the door. Shiro was never coming home again. The neighbor said it was an accident. Maybe he even believed it. The old man did not argue. There was no anger left in him, only a great quiet. He carried Shiro home in his arms, the way he had carried him the first day, inside his coat, close to his heart. He buried him at the edge of the field, where the morning sun arrives first. Over the small grave he planted a young tree, thin as a finger. It was the only thing he could think to give. He stood there until dark, his wife beside him. He said only one thing: "Thank you." Most trees take their time. This one did not wait. By summer it was taller than the old man. By autumn taller than the house. Its trunk grew wide and strong, and its branches opened over the field like protecting arms. People came from the village just to look at it. No one could explain it. Some said the roots had found water. Some said nothing, and only looked. The old man did not try to. He only rested his hand on the bark sometimes in the evening, the way you rest your hand on the shoulder of a friend. One night the old man had a dream. Shiro was there, white and bright, sitting under the great tree. "Cut the tree," Shiro said. "Make a mortar from the wood, a deep bowl for pounding rice, and pound your rice in it." The old man's hands shook as he cut the wood. It felt like losing him twice. His wife stood beside him, her hand on his back, saying nothing, and that was enough. He did what the dream asked. His wife poured rice into the new mortar, and he lifted the wooden mallet and began to pound. The rice turned. It shone, Every grain became gold. Of course the neighbor heard. He always heard. He came again with the same smile, and again the old man could not say no. The neighbor carried the mortar home, poured in his rice, and pounded with all his strength. The rice turned black. It became stones and worms and things he did not want to name. He shouted and broke the mortar apart and threw the pieces into his fire. The old man arrived too late. There was only smoke, rising thin and gray into the evening sky. He watched it for a long time, as if it were going somewhere, as if something were leaving him again. When the fire died, the old man asked for the ashes. The neighbor laughed at him. "Take them, old fool, take all of them." The old man gathered the ashes into a basket, gently with both hands, the way you carry something that is sleeping. They were still a little warm, warm the way a sleeping body is warm. He did not answer the laughter. There was nothing in him that needed to. He held the basket against his chest all the way home, down the long winter road, and he did not hurry. It was deep winter then. The cherry trees along the road stood bare and black, and the air was thin with cold. On the path home the wind rose. It lifted a handful of ash from the basket and carried it up into the branches of a dead tree. And the branches opened. Flowers. Soft, white-pink flowers, hundreds of them, in the middle of winter, glowing in the gray air. The smell of spring in the coldest month of the year. The old man stood beneath them, ash on his sleeves, looking up for a long time. Petals or snow, it was hard to say. So he climbed the old dead trees one by one and threw the ashes into the air. And everywhere the ash touched, blossoms opened, white and pink against the winter sky. Tree after tree, branch after branch, the whole valley blooming out of season. People came out of their houses and stood in the cold, looking up, saying nothing, or saying things very softly, the way people speak inside a temple. Somewhere a bell rang. Children reached up with open hands. Old people closed their eyes. The petals moved in the wind like slow snow that could not decide whether to fall. That day, a great lord was passing on the road. He stopped his horse. He had never seen a winter valley in full bloom. "Who did this?" he asked. The old man bowed, ash still on his hands. They began to call him Hanasaka Jiisan, the old man who makes the flowers bloom. The Lord gave him fine cloth and rice and gold, and asked him to bloom the trees along this road every year, for as long as he lived. The neighbor tried it too, of course. He threw ashes as the Lord passed. The wind turned. The ash found only the Lord's eyes. He was taken away down the road, and the valley grew quiet again. Spring came on its own that year, the real one, and found the work already done. In the evenings, the old man liked to sit at the edge of his field, in the place where the morning sun arrives first. His wife brought tea. They sat close together. The tea went cold sometimes, and neither of them noticed. They did not talk much. They never needed to. The petals came down slowly around them, soft and white. White like snow. White like a small dog in the tall grass long ago. And if the old man closed his eyes, something white was still running ahead of him on the path, looking back, waiting for him to follow. In Japan, cherry blossoms stay for only a week or so. Then the wind takes them. And still, every spring, people gather under the trees with food and lanterns, just to sit and talk quietly and watch the petals fall. The custom is called hanami, flower viewing. Maybe this old story is part of the reason the blossoms feel less like a decoration and more like a gift. Something that arrives briefly from somewhere we cannot see, and is loved more, not less, because it cannot stay. I keep thinking about the way he carried the ashes home, gently, like something that was still sleeping. Maybe love doesn't really end. Maybe it just changes shape, again and again, until one day it looks like flowers. I'm not sure. I wonder which moment stayed with you tonight. What about you? Good night.